Welcome back to the workshop. I did a video a little while ago on this jigsaw, Black Decker Jig Saw 7504 that I acquired from my father. And I got a lot of comments on that from people who had acquired something very similar to this from either a relative or a yard sale or whatever. So pull it out. Mine was really gummy on the inside. And people ask questions about what kind of screw size was this, or how to get in there and how to get it clean. So I thought, hey, I might try that as well. I might go ahead and try that. I have since talked to my father about this. He said he didn't ever really use it. It had been used, that's for sure. I'm guessing he bought it at a yard sale. He went to a yard sale somewhere, saw it, bought it, and did not use it very much, maybe once or twice. And so what I'm getting is something that somebody else long ago used considerably. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to get in here because what do I have to lose? This is an old tool that probably, if I get into it, will still work when I'm finished working on it. There's no warranty to void. There's nothing like that. This is a tool that's over 40 years old, possibly older. So I'm going to go ahead and get in there and let's see what we find. I'm going to use a piece of cardboard, just scrap cardboard I probably used for staining or something. Use that underneath this in case there is a bunch of nasty coming out of here. I don't want to get that on my wood bench. This has got a very short cord, so there's no real danger of me having this plugged in while I do this, but obviously you don't want to have this plugged in. But I'll just kind of drape this off to the side. In fact, I think I'll put it in my vise just lightly so it won't flop around too much. There we go. That'll keep it in place. Looks like this will be a Phillips screwdriver. I've got, looks like 4 screws. Now I don't know if, the plate, if something else comes off first, if the housing comes apart. This is all new to me. Piece of scratch paper here. I'm going to make note of which screws came from where. It's a very crude drawing here of a jigsaw. And so we've got screws here, 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 and here. And so when I take the screws out, I'm going to put them on the paper, maybe tape them down or something, just so I can remember where they came from. And that's something that's somewhat smart to do, but doesn't have to be done. That's how I choose to do it. It's a magnet. There we go. Yep, it's definitely separating now with this 4th screw coming out. All right, well, okay. So this thing comes off. It's got this long piece that you don't want to break off. And some padding. See, that oil port, which was here, corresponds to, well, it seems like, I guess this area here is where the oil, so it's like a sponge that you're giving oil into. We got some gummy stuff right here. I'll probably clean that off. I'll clean all this off. So now, we got the electrical. So electrical comes to here. I won't mess with that. I have no interest in messing with that. I am more interested in some of the stuff in here. Primarily how this is, this is the part that reciprocates back and forth real fast to give you the cutting action. And I can see there's a gear in there, or something. You got something with jutted sides. We do have some nuts, and I can get those off with the nut driver if I need to. There are no screws over here. So everything is, oh, there we go. Here's the next part that's going to come out, and that's going to include the electrical, which, let's see if I can, hopefully it's just pressed into plastic. Yes, it is. Okay, so you can take that all completely off. Just remember, and again, we have a lot more oil here, and I'll try to clean that off. I'll use probably mineral spirits to clean that off. That's what I've used in conservation work to remove things like any oily substance, but also corrosion, that kind of that kind of thing. So a next step would be to remove these 3 nuts with a nut driver, to remove this and see what's going on in there, and maybe give that a cleaning. There's a lot of debris down here, and that can easily be cleaned off with the mineral spirits. The 2 housing pieces of plastic have already been cleaned with the mineral spirits, and they look a lot better. So here's a 5/16 nut driver that I'm using to attempt to get the screws out. They're really in there pretty hard. So next I moved on to a 5/16 closed wrench, like you have them with a mechanic set. Eventually, I also had to employ a 5/16 bit for a socket wrench, and that really gave me the leverage I needed to get the other 2 out. The plate and saw blade arm come off together, and they will separate from each other. You can see the orientation of the gear behind it. Here's a closer look at the plate and arm. The little knob just fell off. This is the knob that connects to the gear. It's important for moving the arm. So you want to put that somewhere safe while you continue with this procedure. One thing I didn't know was that the gear would just come off. So I would suggest after you remove the plate and the arm, go ahead and remove the little rod that's on the gear and the gear itself. That way you don't risk dropping it on the floor or damaging it some other way. What that reveals is a lot of old grease, or it's not oil, it's a grease material within the inside of the machine that was meant to lubricate the motor or lubricate the moving parts over time. And now that grease material has become a lot more solidified. And so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So from this you can see how clean that interior is. So next I'm going to remove these 3 screws in the back. At this point, I have cleaned just about all the components of the jigsaw, including this piece plus all the other components. We've opened up the back to see what's in here. I haven't really cleaned any of this because this is not really, this would be electrical and the motor. I don't want to mess with that. But everything else, of course, as the motor works, it will move this thing, which in turn moves the little gear in there, which will move the wheel and gets you your motion. So I think at this point, let's go ahead and try to put it back together. I'll go ahead and try to do it in somewhat reverse order. Not exactly, but we need to put this on first. Fed all the screws into their holes. Actually, these 2 never came out. I fed that one in. I'll just go ahead and put those all back where they go. I'm not using an electric or power drill for any of this because I don't want to chance wearing down any of the screw threads. Some of you were asking about how to put the bushings back in. I assume you're referring to this piece or maybe the one behind it. The one behind it I don't know, but this one comes with a smaller rod that attaches onto the post. I like to keep small screws and parts in a container like this in the shop. This is an old Tylenol bottle, but anything with a secure lid will work. This is how I figured it out. Referring to the video I took earlier when I took it apart, the wheel was in this position. It may be in a different position when you take yours apart. You want to fit the saw arm over the front so that the square ends fit over the screw holes and the mouth fits over the small rod on the wheel. As the wheel spins around, it makes the arm go up and down to activate the saw. This next piece fits over so that the screw holes match up and the long vertical pieces that stick out towards you and the left hook pointing into the machine. Here's a closer look at that second piece. You can notice the long vertical pieces sticking out. So here's the whole configuration together. You got this piece attached with this over it and the 3 nuts back in place, and they're tightly in place. Getting the housing back on, you want to start with the left piece, which has a channel in the handle for the electrical wiring. Be sure to press the bottom of that section in the foot so the rest will set into place. Here's a still from earlier in the video of how the electrical was positioned in the handle. It also shows precisely how the power switch matched up with the internal switch. This is the configuration that I have figured out based on the photo, or based on the film I did taking this apart. When putting this piece on, we're using the one that actually has a hole in it. That's what we're using to slip over the switch. That fits in there, and then when it's switched, you can see on and off. This tucks down all the way. This tucks down through a little groove. The plug is up so that it can fit into this channel. There's a natural channel here specifically for that, and the bumps on here were visible in the video I took earlier. That's why it's always good when you're doing this kind of thing. Take pictures or video when you're doing it, so it's better for putting it back rather than just chancing your memory. All right, hopefully now I can get the other cover on. And that hopefully will just slip right on. Yep. And now it's just a matter of using the screws. It's all back together. Now, of course, we cleaned all the oil out, so it's still going to need some sort of lubricant in there to make it work. I'll test it out, make sure it works, and I'll probably have to take off, well, either take off the cover, or at least part of it, to get some oil in it, or use the oil port. But we took so much out, I'll probably have to put some more in. Putting stuff in, I'll probably end up using either a 3-in-1 oil or a thread cutting oil, which is a lot finer of an oil. But that heavy duty lubricant that was in there is not really necessary for my purposes. I'm not sure that I would put that back in, but we will put something in at some point. Got it back together. Here is a live outlet. It's in the off position. I'm going to plug it in and see what happens. I am wearing eye protection because in case this thing fires off or who knows what. Let's see what happens. Well, it didn't pop, it didn't fire off sparks or anything. This thing is still pretty strong. Can't tell if it's any cleaner or more powerful than it was before. The way to find out would be to cut a piece of wood. I have a 3/8 inch piece of plywood attached to the end of my workbench with a line drawn to keep me from damaging the workbench. I'm using a coarse blade for the cut. Let's plug it in and see what happens. Well, there you go. Still works, even after taking completely apart. Still don't know if I'll use it as much, but it does work if I need it. So that's how you open up, clean up, and reassemble a jigsaw you might find at a yard sale. Thanks for watching.